Hello, we're so glad to have you here with us. Before we get started today, I would like to just give a few housekeeping notes. First of all, you'll see that in the box next to the presentation, you'll see the chat. The chat is a great opportunity for you to interact with one another. So it is not the place, though, to put your questions because as speakers, we will not be able to see your questions if you put them in the chat. So right next to chat, where you'll talk to one another, you'll see a box, a button for Q&A. And that's where you'll submit any questions you have throughout the session. And you're invited to submit those questions as soon as you have them. And then you'll also see a tab for Wordly. And if you need translation services, we're offering translation services in up to 21 different languages. You'll find the way to connect to your translation service for your specific language under the Wordly tab. And then the last button that you'll see is handouts, where you'll see our slides. And then there are two handouts in there as well on the registry, the FOP Registry and the FOP Biobank, which we're going to talk about towards the end of this session. So I think that's the housekeeping notes for the moment. I'm Michelle Davis. I guess I should have introduced myself at the beginning. I'm Michelle Davis, the Executive Director of the IFOPA. Many of you I know either because we've met at a family meeting when we were allowed to all be in person and together, which was such an incredible time, or because we connect on Facebook or some other social media platform. But I'm Michelle Davis. I've been here at the IFOPA since February of 2016. So it will soon be 6 years that I've been with the organization. And I'm excited today for you to have an opportunity to interact with Danielle Kerkovich, Dr. Danielle Kerkovich, who is our research director at the IFOPA. And she joined us in April of this year. Some of you may have met her. I say met because we're all meeting virtually these days. I may have met her during the gene therapy, the In Pursuit of a Cure gene therapy webinar this summer. But she's going to be talking with you a lot today about the gene therapy program, but also other FOP research programs you make possible through your donations and fundraising. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Danielle.
Thanks, Michelle. As Michelle mentioned, my name's Danielle, and I'm really excited to be here at my very first family gathering. As Michelle mentioned, I've recently joined the IFOPA, and I'm really excited to be here following Adam's departure. And those are some big shoes to fill. So I'll do my best. But today I'm really excited because I have the opportunity to tell you how the IFOPA advances medical research in FOP. And there's a lot to tell you. First of all, the IFOPA advances medical research in FOP across four main categories. Number one, through collaboration. Two, by identifying, creating, and disseminating FOP-specific research tools to the community. Three, by identifying research that has the highest potential for treatment success and funding that research through our grant funding programs. And four, by building strong working relationships with members of the pharmaceutical industry that you may have heard from yesterday and others to bring safe and effective medications to those with FOP. First and foremost, IFOPA or any patient or advocacy organization, one of the most important things we do is to bring together key researchers, their teams, medical experts, researchers from academia, those from the pharmaceutical industry, and even regulatory approval experts together to talk about recent discoveries and to brainstorm pharmaceutical solutions to FOP or the disease. In 2014, the IFOPA did just that by creating the FOP Drug Development Forum, also known as the DDF. The DDF meets every other year and is the only scientific conference worldwide dedicated solely to understanding FOP and to creating new medicines to treat FOP. So we're really, really excited about that. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet in 2021 due to the global pandemic, but we're hard at work preparing for 2022 and excited to get to see each other in person again. In addition to the DDF, the IFOPA convenes smaller working groups working together on key issues experts deem important for therapeutic development. For example, the FOP Immunology Working Group is focused on identifying ways in which inflammation accelerates the disease and ways in which to dampen that so that the disease does not progress as quickly. The FOP Biomarker Consortium is looking at non-invasive ways to track flare formation and the formation of extra bone. These biomarkers could be used in clinical trials. 2, the IFOPA identifies and spearheads a program that identifies, develops, and disseminates worldwide specific research tools that address unmet research needs in FOP research. It's a lot of research. And by doing that, we can accelerate the time from now until treatment success. We can validate previous discoveries, and we can track the safety and progression, the safety and efficacy of the medicines that we are testing to see their effect on FOP. One such tool is the FOP mouse model, which is now owned and distributed by the IFOPA at no cost to recipients. The IFOPA mouse model is the result of the generous support of La Jolla Pharmaceutical Company and a collaboration with several investigators on its design. Investigators from Emory University, the University of Michigan, Regeneron Therapeutics, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and the University of Pennsylvania got together to design a mouse that would be informative in determining the progression of FOP, how it happens, and how to stop it. This mouse is now being used worldwide to test new medicines prior to human trials. And if you look at the picture on the right, you can see the mouse skeleton, and the extra bone it forms is marked in red. In addition to the mouse, we also have the FOP Prompt that some of you may be familiar with. The FOP Prompt is something that we're really proud of. It's a tool for those living with FOP to report on their symptoms. And that reporting can go straight to our registry to understand the natural history or progression of disease. And it can also be used in clinical trial. In fact, the FOP Prompt was recently presented to the FDA and will be used in an upcoming trial to test the safety and efficacy of a new medicine. Michelle will talk a little bit more about the registry efforts as well in a little bit. We also have the IFOPA Biobank, which Michelle will talk a little bit more about as well. The Biobank is a repository of blood, saliva, urine, and baby teeth donated by those living with FOP so that investigators can study the progression of disease in patient samples. Rare disease patient communities suffer from a lack of therapeutic advances due to a lack of patient samples. That's not the case for our community because those with FOP are stepping up and they're providing those samples. And the FOP is taking those samples and their anonymized clinical health information and sharing them with laboratories across the world to maximize each donation. And repeat donors are stepping up so that investigators can follow the progression of disease across multiple samples. Right now, participating in the biobank is only open to those in the United States. However, we're working on creative ways in which to allow others who wish to participate the opportunity to do so. If you would like to know more about the biobank or request a kit be sent to you at no cost to you whatsoever, you can go to our website or ask anybody at the IFOPA about the biobank or anything you hear about today. We're happy to help you because you're helping us. 2021 was a difficult year, but 2021 also marks the creation of a really great new program within the IFOPA, the IFOPA Preclinical Drug Testing Program. Together with Drs. Wang and Pignolo at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, the Preclinical Drug Testing Program gives individuals outside of the FOP research space, from academia, from the pharmaceutical industry, the opportunity to test their ideas in mouse models of FOP to get expert advice on how to design those mouse trials. and to get expert opinions and advice on how to interpret the results. So how does this work? Someone outside of the FOP space, whether they're at a university or in a pharmaceutical industry, perhaps working on a drug that in another disease, but they think it might have some positive effect on FOP, fills out a short application telling in the application a little bit about their idea and a little bit about the drug. The application is then reviewed by experts in FOP. And if the drug makes sense, if the idea makes sense, and the drug has the potential to reach tissues at risk for forming extra bone, the drug is accepted into the program at no cost to academic investigators and at cost to pharmaceutical investigators. Researchers at Mayo then evaluate and screen the drug in their models and provide the results back to the applicant. By doing things this way, we're lowering the threshold for new ideas to come into the FOP drug discovery pipeline. And grant funding. Similar to other medical research associations that are successful, we follow traditional grant funding practices. Starting in 1989, with the help of Jeannie Pieper, the IFOPA initiated research support at the University of Pennsylvania in a program called the FOP Collaborative Research Project. Funding for the university, talented investigators at the University of Pennsylvania continues today, now known as the Center for Research in FOP and Related Disorders. We also have the Accelerating Cures and Treatment Program for FOP grant program initiated in 2015. Initiated in 2015 by the friends and family of Sona Brinkman, others have joined in funding this program to bring about new treatments for FOP, to enter more ideas into the pipeline until we have safe and effective approved treatment. Individuals who have provided gifts include Joshua's Future of Promises, FOP Australia, FOP Friends, FOP Italia, and the Canadian FOP Network. So let me show you how far we've come in just a few short years. In just a few short years, the Act for FOP grant program has funded 22 grants across 16 institutions, evaluating 10 novel therapeutics for $1 million. That is a lot of research success in a short period of time. And we also partner with others. Since 2018, the IFOPA has joined in the University of Pennsylvania Orphan Disease $1 Million Bike Ride campaign, where individuals riding their bikes in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or virtually fundraise for the program. And as a result, $300,000 has been dedicated to studying the effect of inflammation on the disease and testing novel therapeutics in animal models of FOP. And lastly, but not least, I'd like to tell you about another new program at the IFOPA, the In Pursuit of a Cure program. As you may be aware, gene therapy is all the rage these days and constantly in the news, as touted as a game changer for those with genetic illnesses such as FOP. In 2020, the IFOPA and its supporters asked the question, if the gene therapy is advancing so quickly, could those advancements be applied to FOP? My predecessor, who you know well, Adam Sherman, looked for key investigators in gene therapy studying musculoskeletal disease to recruit those individuals into the fight against FOP. He found Jay Shim and Guangping Gao at the Horae Gene Therapy Center at the University of Massachusetts Medical School and recruited them in the fight. To support their efforts, the IFOPA created the FOP Gene Therapy Working Group to advise these individuals with their expertise in FOP. And I'm sure some of these faces may look familiar. Now, I was going to go into a little bit of an explanation as to what the team at the University of Massachusetts had approached and tried and been through in their first year of funding. But I thought it would be much, much better to show you the video shown here. And if we could replay that, that would be great. So while we're trying to get that replayed, let's see if I can do that. Let me just tell you what's happening here. So the mouse in the far right bottom has FOP, and it is not treated with any kind of treatment whatsoever. So you see it's not moving very much. The mouse that does not have the red arrow does not have FOP and has never had FOP. So you see it moving around quite a bit. The mouse with the red arrow, if we could show that again moving, the mouse with the red arrow has FOP. However, it has been treated with the gene therapy created and produced at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. So the first year of funding was all about feasibility. Could we use gene therapy to treat FOP mouse models? And I think the answer is a resounding yes, and that it works. The next few years will be dedicated to taking those results and translating them into applications that we can use to test in human clinical trials, to test gene therapy in FOP. It's a really exciting time in research. And last but not least, the IFOPA forms strong working relationships with members of the pharmaceutical industry to advance safe and effective medications for FOP. We do this in several ways, but mostly through you. We partner with the pharmaceutical sector and industry sponsors so that those living with FOP can provide input into clinical development programs, to provide data from the registry. We provide the research tools that we had mentioned, and we organize patient advisory boards so that those living with FOP can talk directly to the pharmaceutical industry and tell them what your needs and wishes are. We educate the community, we educate you back on clinical trials, and we assist in trial education and recruitment. The registry is quickly becoming a recruitment tool for the several pharmaceutical companies that you heard from yesterday, and I'll tell you a little bit more about. In addition to the pharmaceutical industry, the IFOPA is brokering conversations between patients and regulatory experts who will decide what drugs are approved and which ones are not. In 2019, the IFOPA put together an FDA listening session and brought 12 people from the FOP community to the FDA to discuss their path to diagnosis, their personal life choices, what it's like living with pain, and the impact on their family members. The FDA needs to hear from you what you need and want in order to understand which drugs and medications should be approved and which should not. We heard a lot yesterday from key pharmaceutical companies that are entering into clinical trials. Ipsen, Regeneron, BioCryst, Incyte, Daiichi Sankyo. That's a lot, but I wanted to show you this picture here and end on this note here, because while that's only 5 or 6 assets, we actually have 17 ongoing drug development programs in FOP. And those marked in blue here received a substantial contribution from the IFOPA. So we're all working together, and we couldn't do it without you. We're really, really excited about tomorrow so that these 17 assets can be turned into approved medications while we keep feeding the pipeline so that more and more medications come down the line that are safe, that are effective, with fewer and fewer side effects. Thank you for your time. I really enjoyed being here. And I'll hand this over to Michelle now.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. Yeah, I love that last slide that she showed, always charges me up. It's amazing to see how much activity is happening in FOP and to see how the funding provided by the FOP community has made such an impact. So I'm going to talk with you today about ways that you can help support FOP research. We talked a lot about things, big PhD type things that the IFOPA is doing, making decisions on grant funding, picking grant recipients, building mouse models. But there are things that people that are living with FOP can do. And sometimes you think, it's just about clinical trials, but there are other opportunities and ways for you to participate that make a huge difference. And I'm going to talk with you about two of them today. The first is our FOP Registry. And then I'm also going to talk with you about the FOP Biobank. And these are two non-interventional ways that you can contribute to FOP research from the convenience of your home. So let's start by talking about, I wish I could see you. I wish I could ask for like a show of hands who knows about the registry. Not asking who's in the registry because it's an anonymous database, but I'd love to know, be able to see who knows about the registry. So what is the registry? So it is the largest and most detailed database of information about FOP in the world. Sometimes in other diseases, you will see these very fragmented registries where, one institution has a registry over here, and then another institution, in Europe has a registry, and then maybe a patient organization has a registry. And, it's really difficult because there's multiple registries around the world, and there's no one place where all of the information is held. Well, that's not the case in the FOP community. In 2015, the IFOPA launched the FOP Registry, and we'll talk in a few minutes about how it's grown because the FOP community has embraced it. So the other thing that's special about the registry is it's what we call a longitudinal study. Basically, it means that you start and you put information in the beginning, and then you add information over time. So you have an enrollment survey and follow-up surveys. And those follow-up surveys tell the story of how FOP is progressing in each individual. And that is critical information to research. And it's information that only you can provide. So what is the registry's purpose? The registry is first and foremost about increasing what is understood about FOP today and in the future. We don't have an end date for the registry. The registry is not set to, we're going to close down the registry in, 5 years after it was started and we got all the data we needed. This is a resource that will live in perpetuity. And so you fill out your enrollment survey, you complete your enrollment surveys every 6 months, and we'll continue to use it impacting research for decades. It is accelerating FOP research because we have all of this information in one place. It is also helping clinical studies. I think you heard yesterday in the clinical trial sessions that even we've talked about before that people that participated in the natural history study, if you participated in the natural history study and also the FOP registry, that some of your data was shared between from the natural history study into the registry. And then yesterday we heard Dr. Kurt Brown at Insight talking about the fact that out of their trial, they would share information back with the registry, that they did we helped them do a height and weight survey, and that information was shared into the registry. So having this one place to store all of these pieces and parts of FOP research also helps accelerate that FOP research. It's enabling clinical studies in FOP, and clinicians are going to also be the information that's coming out of the registry will also help clinicians improve medical care. So I'm really excited to share with you today that we have created a new video about the registry. It's a brand new recruitment video to share the story of the registry with FOP families. It literally came off the press yesterday, so you're the very first ones to see it. And I'm excited to share it with you now.
Meet Anna. She just completed her 6-month follow-up survey for the FOP Registry. The FOP Registry is the largest and most detailed database of information about FOP and those who are living with the condition. And when Anna completes these surveys every 6 months, her data is combined with other participants' data, which allows researchers to better understand how FOP progresses over time. But first, let's go back and see how she got started. Using her computer, Anna first created an account in the FOP registry by entering her name, email, date of birth, and her preferred language in the patient database. Then she received an email to finish creating her account and read and sign the informed consent form. This form explained the study, so Anna could make an educated decision about whether or not to participate. Then Anna completed her enrollment survey to tell the story of how and when she was diagnosed and how FOP has affected her. During this final step, she uploaded her medical record that shows she has been diagnosed with FOP. Overall, it only took Anna between 30 minutes to an hour to complete. And as a thank you, the next month she received a $25 Visa gift card. That brings us to today. This time, Anna completed the follow-up survey on her phone. Next time, she may use her tablet. It was much shorter and only took her 30 minutes. Sometimes, when she hasn't had much FOP activity in the last 6 months, she can complete it in 15 minutes. When Anna completes her follow-up survey every 6 months, the information she provides about her health and FOP helps researchers understand how the condition is advancing and impacting her life. Understanding the journey of people living with FOP helps researchers and doctors improve research and medical care. And if she isn't feeling up to it, her caregiver can assist by entering her responses. Every time she completes a 6-month follow-up survey, she receives another $25 Visa gift card. Participating in the FOP registry is an easy way for Anna to have her story included in research, and she doesn't even have to leave her home. It's low risk for Anna and high reward for FOP research. When Anna participates in the registry, she contributes to the knowledge about FOP. FOP is a very complicated condition, so the information provided by people living with the condition, like Anna, helps doctors better understand FOP and improve care. Information from the registry also helps academic and pharmaceutical researchers develop new drugs and design clinical studies that test medications that could treat FOP. When information in the registry is used for research, the details that identify each participant are removed. Then the information is analyzed. These findings from the registry can be published in reports and articles. When Anna and her family read these, they also have a better understanding of FOP and how it may impact her life. One thing Anna learned from the last FOP Registry annual report is that about 1/3 of registry participants have a hearing loss, just like Anna. Now, her family knows that her hearing loss isn't unusual for people with FOP. Anna has friends with FOP from around the world, of all ages, who are also participating in the registry. Currently, the registry is available in multiple languages, not just in English. The registry also has a medical section for doctors caring for someone living with FOP to complete. When Anna visits her doctor, he sometimes asks her questions or performs routine FOP checkups and enters the information in the medical portal. Having two sides of the FOP story, the experience of people living with FOP and the reports from doctors, gives a more complete picture of the condition. Anna is proud to be a part of the registry. Sometimes when she completes a survey, she will connect with people in the FOP community through social media and encourage them to participate as well. She understands that her FOP journey is very important for research. She is making a difference in FOP. You can too. Start by going to FOPregistry.org and click Join Now. Or if you have more questions, email us at help@FOPregistry.org.
So I hope you enjoyed that new video about the registry and why it's important to be a part of it and how easy it is to advance FOP research for families that are living with FOP. So next we're going to talk a little bit about what we're learning from the registry. And this is actually an excerpt from the 2020 FOP Registry Annual Report. This will give you a sample of some of the things that the information you're providing is telling us. So we always like to look at signs and symptoms. as it shared in the video, looking at what the signs and symptoms of FOP are helps people with FOP. It helps researchers, but it also helps you understand maybe some of the conditions that you're experiencing. Here's a good example that we've heard talked about frequently: the hearing loss in FOP. That about a third of the people living with FOP experience a hearing loss. So, it's not just scientists that are learning from the data that's coming from the registry, but FOP families are learning from it as well. The other things, examples of other things that we learned from the registry, we asked lots of questions about diagnosis in the registry. And so you'll see here as an example that we know that people with a classic mutation now take about 2 years from symptom onset to diagnosis to be diagnosed with FOP. But then we also know that correct diagnosis takes longer in people who don't have the classic FOP genetic mutation. So we're learning really important things too about diagnosis. And this is always a really interesting slide that tells us who is diagnosing FOP, where are people getting that actual diagnosis. And this also helps inform maybe awareness and education programs that we have. So when we look at this, we know that, we should be getting the FOP message out, especially at orthopedic conferences, at genetic conferences where geneticists or genetic counselors are attending, at pediatric conferences, and at rheumatology conferences. Just this past summer, the 10 Soldiers program held, the IFOPA was able to sponsor a special symposium that 10 Soldiers did at a pediatric rheumatology conference in Europe. So the data that you're putting into the registry is helping us learn more about the disease, but also helping us learn how to tell more people about the disease and increase awareness and education. Your participation also helps us when we want to look at special topics. And so last year, we looked at information about how frequently people living with FOP were visiting the doctor. And we compared the 2020 data against the 2019 data. And as you can see, as you could probably have guessed, definitely COVID-19 had an impact on the ability of people with FOP to seek medical care directly from their doctor. And so I think one of the ones that's really shocking to us is, dentists. We know how important it is for people living with FOP to regularly see their dentist. And we know that COVID-19 had definitely had a big impact on it. So this is an example of how the IFOPA is using this data. Dr. Ed Shao also did a study at UCSF where he did some of his own study work, but he also was able to query data from the registry. He was able to query aggregated anonymous data from the registry, and that helped result in a paper that he's just recently written about the impact of COVID-19 on people living with FOP. So it's a great resource that only the FOP community, people living with the condition, can make possible. So you might have heard it mentioned in the video that there's 2 portals, but there's one purpose for the registry. So the 2 portals are basically like 2 different parts of the database that talk to one another. One is completed by people living with FOP, and that's the one that's been in existence since 2015. And within the last year or so, we've launched a medical portal that is being used by doctors who are caring for someone with FOP. We'll talk more about that in a second. It's exciting for you to see that the FOP registry has almost 400 people who are enrolled in it now. And we know that, we have 71 countries that are represented, which is incredible. So we have almost 40% of the world's known FOP population participating in the registry, which is incredible. The medical portal. So the medical portal is completed by FOP experts. So you'll see here, the portal is live currently in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Mexico, and the United States. And we have to work with each individual institution to make sure that the physician has the ability to participate in the medical portal. So while this is the starting 5, we're continuing to build a list of physicians around the world that are participating in the medical portal. So this is a pretty fun slide, the next one. When the registry was launched in 2015, it was launched in English. Let me go back here. And, sorry about that. And the registry was launched in 2015. It was launched in English. And then later that year, well, it should pop up for you, but it's not popping up. There we go. There we are. The next year in 2016, it was launched in 6 more languages. So we launched in French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish. So that really increased the opportunity for people for whom English wasn't their first language to participate. We are really excited to share that we've gone from the 7 languages to, in the month of December, we are getting ready to launch the registry in both Korean and Polish. So we're excited to see the continued expansion of the registry. So let's talk a little bit about how you participate. The video shared a little bit about that. I think one of the most important things that I want to reiterate is that your information is always kept anonymous. So when researchers ask to use information from the registry, all of the information that could be used to identify you, your name, of course, your date of birth, where you live, your city, your state, all of that information is pulled out. So it's already anonymous. And then we aggregate the data and we provide them reports of the data that's been combined. So there's never a way for someone that's using the data from the registry to find out specifics about about an individual patient. So if you're going to be participating in the registry, you want to gather, first of all, this is your first time, gather information that confirms your FOP diagnosis. And you'll need between 30 minutes to an hour for the first step, which is what we call the enrollment survey. And you begin that survey by going to FOPregistry.org and clicking Join Now. One thing I'll say is that maybe that day you start working on the registry enrollment survey and you can't finish it, you can leave and come back to where you left off. One of the other things that we've been able to do since we launched the registry, we know that many of our families like to use mobile apps. And so we do have an iOS mobile app that is available. And we have continued to work on the development of an Android app as well. So then after you have completed that survey, you'll go step by step through the enrollment process, and it will ask you a variety of questions. It'll ask you questions about your diagnosis. It will ask you questions about your symptoms. It will ask you questions about your aids and adaptations that you might be using. So all of that information will come together and it will finish your enrollment survey. Once you've completed your enrollment survey, then there's an automatic clock in the registry, and every 6 months, it will send you an email to remind you to fill out your follow-up survey, and you have 30 days to complete that follow-up survey. Now, let's say that maybe you missed that email and you didn't get to fill out your 6-month follow-up survey. In 12 months, so at 12 months, in another 6 months, it's going to send you another reminder. And it's okay. Go ahead and fill out the 12-month survey. Don't think, oh, just because I didn't fill out the 6-month survey, I shouldn't fill this out. Not the case. Every time you get a follow-up survey, we want you to stop and fill that out. And like we said in the video, the follow-up surveys may not take as long. They might take 30 minutes, but if you haven't had much disease or condition activity in the last 6 months, it might only take you 15 minutes to fill it out. So you can see here, this is just an example of, when you start the survey, you've got to complete an informed consent. You've also got to share your demographics and your diagnosis. So that first survey takes a little bit longer, but after that, the amount of information you fill out decreases. I think the most important thing is that we are constantly working, whether it's clinicians, researchers, people at pharmaceutical companies, the teams at the pharmaceutical companies, the IFOPA, FOP national organizations. We are all on this pathway forward to a world where we are able to develop treatments and one day a cure for FOP. And so the information that you're providing in the FOP registry is taking us further down that path. And what's incredible is you can do it from home, and you only have to do it twice a year. So there is a link, an email address here, help@FOPregistry.org. If you're sitting here today thinking, boy, I I think that maybe I started that, but I don't know, kind of where I am in the process, or I've never done it, and I have some more questions, you can send an email to help@fopregistry.org, and we'll get you to the right place to get you answers. It's really important what you're doing in the way you're impacting research. And one of the things that we are able to do is to thank you for participating in research. And we do that by issuing a $25 Visa gift card. That Visa gift card is issued in US dollars, 25 US dollars. If you live outside of the US, it will be transferred to your local currency. You receive it when you do that initial enrollment survey, and then you also receive it when you do your follow-up survey. So you could basically earn, in a year, you could earn $50 a year just by advancing FOP research. It doesn't matter if you are joining the registry for the first time, or you've been in the registry, you'll always receive that $25 gift card. And it's just a great way to say thank you for the time that you take to complete the registry surveys. While we're saying thank you, I want to definitely say thank you to our registry sponsors. The registry was launched back in 2015 with some initial funding, visionary funding, to start the project from the Radiant Hope Foundation. And in the first years of the registry, our key sponsors were Clementia Pharmaceuticals, which then became Ipsen, Regeneron, and Blueprint Medicines. And now we are headed into our second phase of sponsorship of the registry, and our preliminary sponsors are listed here. Insight is our visionary partner for the registry, and then we have collaborating partnerships from BioCryst and Regeneron, and then Keros Therapeutics also is providing us support for the registry. So now I want to take a minute. We've talked about the registry, the database that is fueling research in the United States and around the world. This is not something that is just used by researchers in the United States, but researchers at academic institutions or pharmaceutical companies around the world can ask to use the data in the registry, and our Registry Medical Advisory Board reviews and approves the requests. But there's another way that you can advance research, and that's through our FOP Biobank. And Danielle mentioned a little bit about it, and we're going to start off by showing you a video that shares about the experience of participating in the registry from some folks in the FOP community.
I'm Andrew Davis. I'm 32 years old. I had my first flare-up at the age of 20. I donated to the biobank, gave a little bit of my blood here. I just try to do everything I can just to help kind of progress the finding of a cure, treatment, whatever I can do. I'm try to do it.
The IFOPA initiated the FOP Biobank to provide the necessary tools that researchers require. FOP patients can provide their blood, saliva, urine to the FOP Biobank. By providing these tools, researchers are able to study FOP further and also to look for new biomarkers that are currently unknown to FOP.
Especially in a rare disease area, it's very difficult to put together a good collection of samples from patients. What we're able to do with this biobank is come together with IFOPA and do these mass collections, and then put those in a bank that we can then distribute and give access to researchers interested in FOP, whether they're from a company or from an academic lab around the world.
This is my second time that I'm donating, and I think it's really important that we can help wherever we can. We're helping research, and in the end they're helping us.
This is a very exciting time for FOP research. We're learning so much about the biology of it, and we have so many companies that are interested in drug development. All of our participants have been extremely excited about participating and donating to the biobank. They really, truly are making an important contribution to research.
So it's a great overview of what the experience of participating in the biobank is like from two members of the community. So let's talk a little bit more about the biobank. It is used to make new discoveries, test new drugs, and look for new disease markers called biomarkers, which are critical to the development of new therapies and drug treatments for FOP. So our biobank at the IFOPA takes four things. We'll take blood, we'll take urine, saliva, or baby teeth. At this time, as Danielle mentioned, because you have to get the samples and they have to be transported quickly to a site that can process them, we are only able to collect samples from people living in the United States. But like she said, we're looking for some creative solutions on ways that we can expand the biobank in the future. Now, this is what's interesting. We are looking for donations from people with FOP, but we also need some healthy control samples. So it could be a family member or maybe a friend that wants to do something to help. They can also donate to the biobank. Right now, we've been collecting samples. The biobank launched in 2018 at the FOP Family Gathering in Baltimore, which feels like that was a lifetime ago. We collected samples at the FOP Family Gathering in Baltimore and also at the Family Gathering in Orlando. And then some people have been donating by mail since that time. Right now, the samples that we need the most of are adults with FOP. So if you're an adult with FOP listening, you should consider partnering with the biobank. And then we also need samples from children who are ages 4 through 18 that don't have FOP. So if you know someone who might be willing to help out in either of those categories, we hope that you'll share with them about the biobank. One other thing that's super important, repeat donations are extremely valuable. Remember how I talked about in the registry that the longitudinal aspect of the registry, seeing how FOP progresses over time, is really important? That's also true in the biobank. Getting a sample from someone with FOP and then getting it again later in time and then getting it again begins to tell us too, are there disease markers that are changing over time as their disease changes? So those repeat donations are really important. So if you've donated before, still think about donating again. And again, back to another important thing, all information, all your personal information is de-identified, so your information is protected. So how do you donate? You start your donation at ifopa.org/biobank. Again, we talked about the 4 things that we collected, that it's de-identified. There is no cost to you to participate. So you go to the website, you fill out a donor contact form and an informed consent that says you understand what you're providing here. And then you're going to get a sample collection kit in the mail. It's going to be mailed to you. And then with it, it's going to be a prepaid postage box to return your samples. So I remember when we said we take baby teeth. So as soon as someone in your family, if they are within that, they've got to be at least 4 years old, but if they're in that 4-year-old to the, when kids stop losing teeth, so probably around the ages of 12 or 13, if they've got a loose tooth, you want to go ahead and contact the biobank so you have that kit on hand, because what we need is freshly collected baby teeth. We've had people email us before and say, we found in a drawer a collection of teeth that mom kept from underneath the pillow. Can we send those in? The teeth have to be freshly collected. So if someone in your family, a child, again, ages 4 and up, has a loose tooth, go ahead and go on the website and request your collection kit so that you're ready when that tooth falls out. If you're going to have, if there's going to be dental work happening, you could also request that dental kit, collection kit, so that you could use it, so we could collect those teeth as well. But the biobank is really an important repository of samples. And again, it costs nothing for researchers to use those samples. We want to remove, at the IFOPA, we want to remove the barriers to advancing research, and we don't want cost to be one of those samples. So I do want to give a big thank you to La Jolla Pharmaceuticals. They were the ones who helped us get our mouse model started, but the biobank is an important piece of the story here, and it's a way that you can advance research here at the IFOPA. And so with that, I think we're going to open it up to questions. So I see one of the first questions that is in the chat is there something you wish there was more data on? And I think what's interesting to say is that the registry is always kind of a work in progress. If you were in the FOP clinical experts session this morning, Dr. Mona Al-Muqaddam noted that they're getting ready to, in December, we're going to be adding questions about feminine health issues to the registry. So when FOP researchers, whether you work for an academic institution or a pharmaceutical company, come up with ideas of questions that they would like to see addressed, they add those questions to the FOP registry so we can bring in new data and investigate that new data. So it's a constantly growing and evolving tool. There's some new questions about endocrinology and I think neurology. There's some new questions about dentistry, and there's some new questions about skincare. So all of those questions have been added because those were scientific questions that were coming up in the community. And so we're excited to, as you fill out your 6-month surveys, you'll see those questions that have been added. And we hope that you'll continue to take part on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there was a question about the mobile app, is the iOS mobile app. Right now it is in English, but it will be translated into the other languages as well. So we have the 8 other languages: French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, Korean, and Polish. And the app will be updated in those other languages, but at this time it's only available in English. That's a great question.
Yeah, thanks for answering that, Michelle. I think I misanswered. I thought the person wanted the presentation today in another language.
Got it. No problem. Other questions about the IFOPA's research work, maybe the gene therapy program, perhaps any of the other grant programs, or the registry, or the
any of our
biobank.
research tools. We're open to any questions. Michelle, can you answer this? I'm not even sure if I know this. When working on the registry, is there an opportunity for someone to share information that's not in a question, or add their own questions to bring that information back to the IFOPA if they have a special question about skin conditions or, therapies, anything like that?
Yeah, there's not kind of an open, just a comment section that doesn't exist in the registry, but that help@fopregistry.org email is a great place if you had a question, anything registry related that you could send a question to. If you had a general question about FOP research, together@ifopa.org is the best place to send those questions, and we'll get it routed to the person that can best answer that question for you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I know there are some people that are on the call today that are leaders of our FOP national organizations around the world. So we, like I said, hot off the press, I'm not sure if that's what you say about a video, but hot off the press is the new video. And then we'll be working in the coming weeks to have that translated into all of the languages of the registry. And so we hope that you share that with your communities by email, on your social media platforms, on your website, because while we have almost 40% of the world's population of known FOP patients in the registry, we want to continue to grow that number. So we hope that the new video will be an incredible tool to help you do that. And it's through the sponsorship that's provided by our pharmaceutical partners that help make resources like that available.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm really excited to be here because some of the resources, or all of the resources created by the IFOPA together with those living with FOP, are just phenomenal. The registry, the biobank, the mouse model. I've been in rare disease research for about 15 years, and I have not seen this kind of collection put together through grassroots efforts from the patient community, this robust, this well in a rare disease. I've never seen it before. It's fantastic.
There's one other question that's come in, Danielle, that I'm going to pose. So the question is Epigenetics considered a valid area of research that can potentially provide an alternative approach to a solution for FOP? And are we pursuing any threads in that area?
That's a good question. So epigenetics, for individuals who are interested, is how the environment affects your genetics. And it would be a very good area of investigation for us because most of the mutations resulting in FOP are de novo or are brand new. So where do they come from? They're not always passed from parents to children. And so epigenetics would be an interesting area of investigation, but it is a rare disease, and to collect all of the environmental information that could ultimately result in FOP or affect someone's progression might not give us enough real solid information to develop a therapy, but it could be a companion therapy. So if we find out that, for example, an exposure increases one's chance of having inflammation in their body, then we want to reduce that exposure because we know reducing inflammation reduces the acceleration of disease. So it's a good area of investigation. It's an important area of investigation, and it could result in something. It could result in something that could have an effect on disease progression.
Okay. Well, I think that wraps up the questions for now. We'll give you another few seconds here if you'd like to submit a question.
And if you think of anything later on, please always reach out to us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that looks like the end of the questions. I'm just pulling up my virtual app here to give you a little bit of information about where you are headed next. So you will, after you leave this session, you will head back into the theater. We're going to take some time. We're coming up on 11 o'clock here. There's going to be a comfort break and time to connect in the lounge. If you haven't been in the lounge yet, stop by and visit the lounge. Make sure you get your picture taken for the photo booth and at the photo booth and get your picture up on the photo wall. And then now I'm talking from Central Standard Time in the United States, so I'll convert to Eastern Standard Time. So at 12:40 Eastern Standard Time is when our next set of sessions starts. And the choices that you have at that time are a session on FOP observational study updates. You're going to hear in that session about the Ipsen burden of illness study. And then you're also going to hear about the IFOPA's prevalence study. If you saw this summer when we released the news that there was a prevalence study was done in the United States and found that the prevalence of FOP is actually closer to 1 in a million, not the 1 in 2 million. We're still ultra rare, but not quite as ultra rare as we thought we were, which is a good thing. So we'll talk more about that. You also have an opportunity. You could choose from the Living Well with FOP and the Ability Toolbox program. That's the program that Karen Kirchhoff on our team runs. And then there will also be a session on managing stress and focusing on outlook. So those are the next 3 sessions that you'll have a chance to choose from. Those will start at 12:40 p.m. Eastern Time. And let me just check as we were talking to see if there were any other questions.
Yeah, there's one more from Paulina. She would like to know how to get more information about IFOPA research and clinical trial information. And so what I would say is that you can always go to our website. There is a search feature on clinical trials. Everything that is happening from a pharmaceutical or a sponsor standpoint will also be on clinicaltrials.gov. And if you would like a walkthrough of our website or more information, you can reach out to us directly as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat window just in case anybody would like to.
And then there was one other question. No, that's okay. So there's one other question about gene therapy. When is it likely to provide any potential treatment options? By which year is the question. So I'll let you answer that one because I wish we all knew the answer to that question, but it's science. So go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, the good news is that they were able to show the proof of concept in the mice within a year, and that is lightning speed for determining proof of concept. And so the next steps tend to get difficult to outline because if we look at history, we don't have a long period of history with gene therapy. Things are happening fast. And so what I would say is it could happen as fast as 5 years. It could happen as long as 10 years. But that's a very fluid response because everything is happening Things are changing all the time. So what we can do and what we will do is we will track this, we will follow this, we will drive this, and we will keep you informed by our website, by our reports, by presentations like this, and are always open to those questions. So I really wish I could give you an exact timeline, but it's a tough one. It really is.
If you are not signed up for our newsletter, please make sure you sign up. It's our monthly e-newsletter. IFOPA.org/connect is how you can sign up for that e-newsletter. And that's where we release any updates that we hear about research, about clinical studies and trials. You'll see mentions in those e-newsletters about the various ways for you to participate in FOP research. So definitely check out the website, but you can also sign up for e-newsletters so you get those announcements delivered right into your email. So thank you so much. I mean, again, we said it at the beginning, the funding provided by the FOP community through fundraisers and through donations, and the generous funding of our pharmaceutical partners is what is making this incredible research, these incredible research programs possible. So thank you for supporting programs financially, but then also think about, if you're a FOP family, what are the ways that you can support FOP research? And the FOP Registry and the FOP Biobank are two immediate ways that you can be doing that, in addition to watching for clinical studies and trials that are coming open. Okay, thank you so much. Enjoy your break, and we'll hopefully see you in the lounge.
Bye, everyone.